Overgaard is stranded in the Arctic after his small plane crashes. He digs deep, clearing the snow until he reaches the hard frozen earth underneath. After turning off the alarm on his watch, he assesses his progress before heading to the shelter of the fuselage of the plane. The dark earth flanked by the blinding white snow, which spells SOS, must have taken him a long time to achieve on his own. He returns his tools to the plane and walks to check the system he has devised for his fishing lines. After plunging a pole into one of the holes he has cut into the snow, the clattering of the metal rigged to the pulley system alerts him to check further along. Overgaard pulls a fish from the water, looking at his only source of nourishment respectfully as he holds it in his hands. He methodically places the freshly caught fish into a bright blue container and selects another already frozen to sustain him. Back in the shelter of the plane, he deftly cuts the fish into small pieces which he savors as he sits in solitude deep in thought. After his respite, he gathers his distressed beacon and hand-cranked dynamo and heads out again into the cold white vastness. With no response to his signal, he surveys the unforgiving and beautifully cruel landscape and heads back to the shelter of the damaged plane. After removing the socks from his frostbitten feet, he prepares to rest for the night, cocooned in the warmth of his sleeping bag. On waking, as part of his daily ritual, he walks to the mound of rough stones known as a cairn that he has built as a memorial. He carefully removes the freshly fallen snow, saying, "See you tomorrow," before he leaves. Overgaard continues to work to release the rock embedded in the frozen earth that has been defying his efforts. It finally relinquishes its grip, after which he rests briefly in the icy whistling wind as the snow begins to fall. When he returns to check his fishing lines, he sees his bright blue container has been broken and raided. A large paw print leads away from it. Overgaard cautiously checks the area and runs back to the safety of the plane. Locking the door behind him, he sits in shock, overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted at the difficulty of his daily survival. His daily routine keeps him focused amidst his emotional distress. There is no response to the distress beacon, and he turns off the alarm on his watch. En route to the security of the plane, Overgaard sees the polar bear walking silently, also in solitude along the vast landscape. The following morning, he returns to the cairn and wipes away the recent snowfall, continues to dig the unrelenting icy earth, and selects a single fish from his dwindling supply. He counts as he cranks the dynamo, and as he prepares to leave, he stops in his tracks as the green light on the distressed beacon comes on unexpectedly as the weather worsens. Overgaard runs to retrieve a flare, which he waves frantically to confirm his position to the rescue helicopter flying overhead. Laughing with relief, he shouts and waves to the helicopter pilot. His joy turns to disbelief and absolute despair as the helicopter babbles to land in the strong wind and crashes. He runs to the wreckage to check for survivors. Overgaard drags the pilot, who has died in the crash, into the snow to gain access to the young woman who is severely injured and unconscious. After releasing her seatbelt, he checks her injuries and locates the medical kit before settling for the night in the seat next to her. The following morning, after checking that she is alive, he gently wraps his scarf around her neck. He locates an ice pick, flares, and a detailed map before he ravenously eats the dry noodles he finds. After removing the helicopter door, he carefully straps the unconscious woman onto it, telling her that they are moving from there. He writes that there are 2 people alive, with their location, before he pulls her away to the shelter of his plane. Overgaard holds her tenderly before laying her down to rest. He checks her injury, looks for her identification, and gives her water.